On homicide here in the capital late this afternoon. According to police press officer Chrislyn Skippings, around 4 o'clock this afternoon, two men got into an altercation on Marshall Road. Now, both men were stabbed and later taken to the South Beach Clinic. It was there that one of them was pronounced dead. The other was taken to hospital where he is listed in critical condition tonight. The dead man is believed to be in his 30s. This is the 10th homicide for the year. Police investigations are ongoing. The Free National Movement says its record on crime is unbeatable, as in the past 5 years, the Ingram administration has made changes all around to ensure that national security isn't breached. Those changes include new laws, a strengthened police force and defense force, and a judicial system that has specialized courts to deal with individualized crimes. Shanique Miller takes a look at the government's record and the work it continues to do to keep the crime level down.
2011 is on record as the deadliest year in Bahamian history. Young men, in particular, were the victims. Their bodies, often riddled by the bullets of a gun, lay on street corners as police poured over one crime scene after another. In all, 127 murders. From a comprehensive national address on crime to stiffer laws, the Ingram administration took crime by the horns and introduced sweeping legislation. The laws include the Bail Amendment Act, Domestic Violence Protection Orders Act, Road Traffic Amendment Act, Juries Amendment Act, Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Act, Criminal Procedures Pleas Discussion and Plea Agreement Act, Laws Reform and Revision Miscellaneous Amendment Acts, Evidence Amendment Act, Bail Amendment Act, Dangerous Drugs Amendment Act, Firearms Amendment Act, and Criminal Evidence Witness Anonymity Act. Besides the stiff provisions in these laws, and in cases where the death penalty does not apply, the accused, if over 18, will be given a 30 to 60-year sentence. Even today, the Ingram administration is working to shore up the fight against crime. The government is in the middle of a CCTV program where, like other countries around the world, cameras are being placed in hotspots as an anti-crime tool. Now, when it comes to the primary crime-fighting agency, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, this too has been reorganized and the senior command streamlined. The force now benefits from a new aircraft so that police officers can have quick access to any destination around the country. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force wasn't left out either. In the past 5 years, the RBDF's fleet increased by 10 craft and 2 new aircraft. In 5 years, the courts grew to accommodate a special court to deal with gun matters. Additional magistrates, Supreme Court justices, and Court of Appeal judges were appointed to facilitate speedier trial and reduce the plaguing case backlog. Renovations were made to the Supreme Court building at Bank Lane, and the new Magistrates Court complex on Nassau Street is finished and operating. A major achievement in the processing of court matters, the long-talked-about remand court at Fox Hill Prison. This year, that court was opened, allowing for video conferencing from the prison compound. This eliminates the need to transport remand prisoners downtown every day. The work continues. The government is now reviewing various alternative sentencing and restorative programs to reduce recidivism by juvenile nonviolent offenders. Shanique Miller, ZNS News.
The 2012 general elections will be historic as an absentee voting system will be put in place for the first time, and parliamentary registration officials are managing this and other changes, according to Commissioner Errol Bethel. This as they continue to compile the largest voter register in history. Here's Clint Watson.
The Bahamas will experience a general election unlike any before, and for the most part it has nothing to do with the selection of candidates or the real possibility of third party competing head-on with the two major parties. Instead, we'll experience historic changes to the voting process that includes, for the first time, overseas voting.
Well, we have to make sure that we have people who can do the elections in all the various places. So the people who are going to be responsible for the conduct of the elections will have to be people who are properly trained. We have to make sure that we have proper spaces to do these elections. And of course, we have to make sure that we have the right equipment for the elections, so that whatever standards we have in the Bahamas, those same standards are used wherever we set up polling places.
This process, Parliamentary Commissioner Errol Bethel says, also includes ensuring that advanced polls take place in the various jurisdictions so ballots are returned to the capital in enough time to be placed in the constituency ballot boxes for counting on Election Day.
We don't determine which constituency they are voting in. The determination is made by where people were living prior to going away and where they are registered, because they will be voting in their home constituencies. And so we need to get information from the persons who are interested in voting so that we can plan to accommodate them.
Already in the United Kingdom, 9 people have registered and 3 others have applied to vote there. Miami had only 3 people registered so far, but Bethel says they expect the numbers to grow as more information on the process becomes available. Critical services like armed forces and poll workers aren't the only ones voting in advance polls with overseas voters. Provision is also being made for those special situations which require residents to be out of the country.
The law makes provisions for people who may have to travel for special reasons, like for sickness or for other reasons. They can come in and they can apply to vote in an advance poll.
Now, a number of locations have been set up for pickup and even for registration. Officials said they've been making the plea to Bahamian public for some time now, and they're hoping that you will adhere to it. If you haven't done so, register today. Clint Watson, ZNS News.
Well, already the voter registration list is the largest it's ever been, with nearly 156,000 voters. Parliamentary Commissioner Errol Bethel predicts that the department will reach its goal of 160,000. Bethel also clarified the thinking that elections must be held by May 2nd. That's not true. He explains that the life of Parliament can't go beyond 5 years, and that period starts from the time Parliament convenes and not when the last elections were held.
The elections in 1997, those elections were held on the 14th of March, and the general election was held on the 2nd of May. And the Prime Minister is quite within his rights to hold the election on the 2nd of May, because after dissolution of Parliament, I think there is a time frame within which elections must be held, and I think it extends to about 90 days.
A new art exhibition paying tribute to cultural hero and Junkanoo giant, the late Jackson Burnside, is now on display at the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. This is the first time in the gallery's 8-year history that Junkanoo is being featured prominently. Giovanni Stewart has more.
The creative brilliance of noted architect, visual artist, and Junkanooer Jackson Burnside continues to inspire a new generation from the other side. His Junkanoo creations and inspirations illuminating the halls of the National Art Gallery. Chief Curator John Cox says the NAGB decided to highlight Jackson's Junkanoo art and festival creations by those whose lives he touched following one family's recent Boxing Day tribute to the cultural icon called As We Knew Him.
And we were just very moved by the theme, which we thought was an unusual theme for a Junkanoo group, to pay tribute to one person actually on Bay Street. And just the nature of the costumes we thought were so relevant to the fine art world that it was the perfect opportunity to collaborate with the Junkanoo kind of community in the National Art Gallery.
The exhibition is split into 4 experiences, a history of Jackson's own Junkanoo work, including some personal effects, costume tributes from the Boxing Day parade, an education feature highlighting the process of making costumes, and selections by students inspired by his work and Junkanoo. College of the Bahamas students here getting the tour. One family chairman, Magnus Darren Bastian, has collaborated creatively with Jackson for nearly 20 years. He calls the national exhibition an unparalleled honor for the group.
We're not afraid to try the hard themes. We're not afraid to do the themes that haven't been done before. And Jackson was a big part of that. He encouraged us to be, quote unquote, stupid in our thinking, and that made a big difference.
Jackson always believed in young people and the innovation their fresh ideas could bring to the further development of art and Junkanoo. Artist Jeffrey Maris first met Jackson when he was an 11-year-old up-and-coming Junkanooer. He's been with one family ever since. 4 of his Junkanoo pieces are featured in the national exhibition.
Normally Junkanoo is this thing that happens for one day, not even one day, like 3 hours, and then everybody forgets it. But here it is. The entire Bahamas has an opportunity to come and see what we knew of Jackson.
As We Knew Him, one family's tribute to legendary Junkanooer Jackson Burnside is on display at NAGB through April. Giovanni Stewart, ZNS News.
Welcome to tonight's edition of the Business Beat, sponsored by Royal Fidelity. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Munnings. Let's take a look at what's making business news today.
With the 15.9% unemployment rate dominating headlines Tuesday, let's compare gender results from previous Department of Statistics labor force surveys. In 2011, women were the main contributors to the 78% increase in the labor force. The participation rate for women held steady, but men fell by 2.3 percentage points for the 2010-2011 period. 2009 results showed that in both New Providence and Grand Bahama, the total labor force as well as the employed labor force experienced a slight decline, which was also the case for both men and women. Sharon LaFleur, Samantha Watson, and Philippa Willie have been selected as the 2012 Bahamas Brand Ambassadors by the Bahamas Financial Services Board. The trio of Bahamas Brand Ambassadors will be the faces of the industry to promote a cohesive message of the Bahamas Advantage, the branding theme for the country's financial services industry. They will be involved in a broad range of communications programs coordinated by the Bahamas Financial Services Board to promote the Bahamas Advantage brand. From the international business scene, mining firm Xstrata has formally announced plans to merge with Glencore, the world's biggest commodity trader. The deal would value the combined new business at $90 million, of which Xstrata would comprise $39 billion. The announcement came as Xstrata revealed a 20% increase in profits for 2011 to $5.9 billion. And in regional business, Standard & Poor's Rating Services said on Monday that it lowered its long-term foreign and local currency sovereign credit ratings on Belize to CCC+ from B-. The C short-term credit ratings are unchanged. The outlook remains stable. Remember, you can send us an email or join us on www.znsbahamas.com or become our friend on ZNS's official Facebook page.
And that will end tonight's edition of the Business Beat, sponsored by Royal Fidelity. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Altaviz Munnings.
With childhood obesity on the rise, Centerville Primary School launched an 8-week healthy education wellness program today. The goal is to teach students about diet and exercise in order to help them lead healthier lives moving forward. Guidance counselor at Centerville Primary is Darrell Newbold.
These are kids that we believe can definitely use information on keeping themselves healthy. Some of our kids are asthmatic, so we will have persons come in from Doctor's Hospital and they will teach our kids about the use of medication, the proper use of medication. We have kids with sickle cell. We have kids who are struggling with obesity, and also childhood diabetes.
Now, apart from providing educational resources, counselors from Doctor's Hospital will conduct weekly seminars at the school. Vice President of Human Resources at Doctor's Hospital is Paul Haven.
Knowing what's going on in the Bahamas with the current trends, we felt that it was our duty and a sort of our obligation to come and support Centerville Primary in the 6-week initiative. We hope that through this partnership we'll be able to educate the kids. Hopefully they'll learn something from us as we learn from them, and hopefully it'll lead to things in the future.